I never believed in coincidences until the day he walked into our law firm. A fresh suit, confident stride, and a smile that somehow made the fluorescent lights seem warmer. I had spent years building walls around myself, meticulously stacking them like case files in my office, logic over emotion, professionalism over personal desire, distance over intimacy. And then came Ethan. From the moment he introduced himself, I felt an irritation I couldn't explain. It wasn't just jealousy, it was the way he seemed naturally at ease, the way he noticed details about everyone, including me. My colleagues adored him instantly, laughing at his jokes, seeking his advice. I, of course, kept my distance, smiling politely while feeling a storm of emotions I refused to name. Our first real interaction was anything but dramatic. A client had a last-minute meeting, and he was assigned to assist me. I braced for small talk, expecting the usual polite, perfunctory exchange. But Ethan had a way of asking questions that felt personal, not invasive, and listening in a way that made me notice the small tremor in my own voice, the heat rising to my cheeks. "Do you always organize your files alphabetically?" he asked, tilting his head as he glanced at my meticulous stacks. I bristled. "It's efficient." "Efficient, yes, but do you ever feel it's just a way to keep life predictable?" His smile was teasing but not mocking, and something about the softness in his eyes made me hesitate. I laughed, a little forced. "I like control." "You like control?" he repeated thoughtfully. "But do you like being surprised?" That question lingered longer than it should have. He had a way of saying simple things that made me feel exposed, vulnerable, and intrigued all at once. Over the next few weeks, our interactions multiplied. He would leave coffee on my desk with a note that wasn't flirtatious, not yet, just observant. "Saw you stressed during the 3 p.m. deposition. You handled it brilliantly, by the way." My walls tightened and loosened simultaneously. I didn't know whether to be annoyed or flattered. One evening, the office emptied faster than usual. I stayed behind to finish a brief, my desk lamp painting my office in golden tones. Ethan appeared at my door with 2 takeout boxes. "You're staying late again," he said gently, stepping in without waiting for an invitation. "I thought you might need dinner." I wanted to say no. I wanted to push him away like I pushed everything that felt remotely intimate. But the aroma of the food, combined with the softness in his voice, melted my resistance. "Thanks," I muttered, sitting down. We ate in a quiet camaraderie that was charged without being defined. Our shoulders brushed accidentally or maybe intentionally. I couldn't tell, and I caught myself staring at the curve of his jaw in the lamplight, at the way his hand hovered near mine before retreating. My heart hammered, a rhythm I had almost forgotten existed. Ethan talked about trivial things at first, the absurdities of our colleagues, the lingering smell of the office coffee, the strangest cases we'd ever seen. But gradually, the conversation turned personal. He asked about my weekends, my family, the little things I usually kept private. I felt like I was handing over pieces of myself in small increments, terrified and exhilarated. And then, the first undeniable moment of connection. He laughed, a quiet, soft laugh at a joke I didn't think was funny. The sound, the warmth, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners, struck me with a force I couldn't ignore. My defenses, so carefully constructed over the years, began to wobble. I realized I wanted more than professional camaraderie. I wanted to be near him, to hear that laugh again, to feel his presence without pretense or distance. I started noticing the subtlety of his touch, his hand brushing against mine while handing over a file, lingering just a little too long as we walked past each other, the way he would lean slightly toward me when speaking. Every gesture was deliberate yet gentle, dismantling my carefully maintained composure piece by piece. And just like that, the walls I had built around my heart were beginning to crack, not violently, not all at once, but in soft, quiet increments. Ethan didn't rush. He didn't push. He simply existed in the space beside me, and somehow, that was enough to unravel layers I hadn't allowed anyone to touch for years. By the time Friday arrived, I realized with a start that I was waiting for him, not for his brilliance or charm or professional skill, but simply for him. My mind spun with the audacity of such a thought. I, who had sworn off emotional entanglements, had let him in, willingly, helplessly, with a nervous thrill that I couldn't quite name. The week ended with a team dinner, and Ethan chose the seat beside me without fanfare. A subtle smile, a shared glance over our menus, and the warmth of his presence reminded me that life, for once, could be unpredictable and beautiful. After dinner, most of the team had filtered out, leaving only the two of us lingering near the bar. Ethan leaned casually against the counter, eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite read. I felt my own pulse accelerate, a mixture of anticipation and fear. "You've been avoiding the rooftop terrace all week," he said softly. "Is it because you're scared of heights? Or scared of people noticing how happy you are?" His teasing tone made me want to slap him, but I just laughed nervously. I started, but he interrupted with a look that made me stop mid-sentence. It was one of those looks that pierces straight through the carefully constructed armor you've spent years building. "Don't lie," he whispered, stepping closer. The scent of his cologne, something warm and woody, hit me, making it impossible to focus on anything else. "I can see it in your eyes. You like being close to me. Admit it." My chest tightened. I wanted to deny it, to retreat, to remind myself that this was dangerous territory. But the truth was undeniable. Every subtle brush of his hand, every lingering glance, every carefully worded note had chipped away at my walls until there was nothing left to protect. I do," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan smiled, that gentle, devastating smile, and reached out, tucking a stray strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered at my cheek, warm and comforting, and I felt an electric thrill shoot through me. "Good," he said simply, as if that single word could change everything. We left the office together, the night air cool against our skin. The city skyline glimmered with distant lights, reflections of a life I had been too afraid to embrace. We walked in silence, but it wasn't awkward, it was intimate, filled with unspoken understanding. Every time our shoulders brushed or our fingers accidentally touched, a spark ignited, impossible to ignore. Finally, we reached a quiet park. He stopped, turning to face me, eyes searching mine for permission, for acknowledgement, for something unspoken but deeply understood. "Can I?" he began, and I knew without him finishing that he meant more than words could capture. I nodded, unable to speak, heart hammering in my chest. Ethan closed the distance between us gently, and our lips met in a tentative, searching kiss. It was soft, explorative, but loaded with the weight of everything we had felt all week: hesitation, desire, trust, and something deeper, something terrifying and beautiful. I melted into him, letting go of every fear, every wall I had built, allowing myself to simply feel. When we finally parted, breathless and smiling, he rested his forehead against mine. "I've wanted this," he admitted, voice husky, "since the moment I noticed you hiding behind those files. I didn't think anyone could see through me," I whispered, still trembling. "But you just did." He laughed softly, the sound making my heart flutter in a way I hadn't thought possible. "And now that I have, I'm not letting go." We spent the rest of the evening walking through the park, hands brushing, arms occasionally intertwining, discovering the rhythm of each other's presence. Every shared laugh, every glance, every subtle touch deepened the connection, building a foundation of trust and affection that felt both fragile and eternal. Over the next few weeks, our relationship unfolded naturally, almost imperceptibly at first. A shared coffee in the morning, a brief touch in the elevator, private jokes exchanged in hushed tones during meetings. But gradually, the intimacy grew bolder, more tender. I allowed myself to lean on him, to confide in him, to let him see the parts of me I had long hidden from the world. And Ethan, ever patient, never forced, only encouraged. He became my anchor in the whirlwind of deadlines, court cases, and long nights at the office. His laughter became my relief, his presence my comfort, and his touch a reminder that I could love and be loved without fear. One evening, as we left the office together, he slipped his hand into mine. It was a simple gesture, yet it carried the weight of everything we had discovered about each other, the vulnerability, the longing, the unspoken promise of something lasting. I squeezed his hand gently, a silent acknowledgement that I was no longer afraid. I never thought I could be happy like this, I admitted quietly, eyes meeting his in the dim glow of the streetlights. You deserve it, he replied simply, his thumb brushing along my knuckles. And I'll make sure you never forget it. The city around us hummed with life, but in that moment, it felt like the world had narrowed to just the two of us, two hearts finally brave enough to let go of fear, to embrace love, and to discover the joy of connection that had once seemed impossible. We stopped on the bridge, the river below reflecting the lights above, and Ethan pulled me close, our foreheads touching, breaths mingling. I've wanted you, he whispered. Not just for a week, not just for a month, for longer than I realized. And in that quiet, magical moment, I realized that I had wanted him too, longing and fear intertwined, finally giving way to something beautiful, something real, something that could last. I smiled against him, letting the night, the city, and the promise of tomorrow wrap around us. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly, undeniably home. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.